Welcome to the Financial Freedom Mastermind Group podcast. Here we're all about breaking free from the 40 to 50-year work grind and accelerating our journey towards financial freedom. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as we explore different types of investments that can fast-track your path to financial independence. We serve as a hub for connecting with fellow members during our sessions so you can share successes, ask questions, and keep the momentum going.
Good evening, everyone. This is Niyi Adewole, host of the Akaba Home Financial Freedom Mastermind Group, and I'm excited to be joining you here on this beautiful Wednesday, and it's the first Wednesday of the month of June, and today's going to be an open session. We've been doing a lot of those lately. Soon we're going to have a couple more guests. We've just had a couple scheduling issues, but today is going to be an open session, and we're actually going to be kicking it off with some books that have been influential to both me and my co-host Liban, who's joining shortly. Hello, Liban. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
It would help if I had. Can you say that one more time?
So I'm doing good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Perfect. Yeah. I was just queuing us up, right, for a little bit of the kickoff of the open session, which is talking about books that have been influential in our lives. And I know you had one kind of top of mind.
Yeah. So when people ask me that question, I have always top of mind a book, and that's How to Win Friends and Influence People, written by Dale Carnegie. For people who don't know, I'm sure everyone, has read that book at least. It's one of the first books I always recommended when people are looking to, learn how to better communicate with people. And specifically with us, the field that we're in, we do it all the time. I mean, it's the primary driver of how our business works. And even, in daily life, I think communication is the single most important skill because it is how you convey everything, So being a better communicator not only is going to help you career-wise, it's going to help you personally. And I think it's a skill everybody needs to have. And that book really goes into not just here's what, we think, no, these are actionable, and they're also not that difficult too. So, I mean, it's one of the first things they tell you, never criticize, because people tend to, if you start on the criticism, tune out whatever else you're saying, right? And then in the book, I'll give you a little teaser, right? He talks about with the construction workers, there's a manager who goes, hey guys, we got to have our hard hats. Why don't you have our hard hats on, right?
And Liban, I think you just froze. Now, Liban,
so
can you hear?
Construction worker, right? And he goes,
Liban, you froze for a bit.
Yeah,
you said construction worker.
Yes, there we go. Hopefully this doesn't happen again. Hopefully this is just the booting it up. But no, I was saying with the construction workers, they have a time where there's a manager who comes out and goes, hey guys, we got to have our hard hats on. It's the law, labor unions cracking down, Why don't you have them on? If you don't have it on, I'm docking, and he comes out very aggressively versus a secondary manager who comes out, hey guys, I'm noticing you guys aren't really wearing the hard hats. Are they uncomfortable? Is there, something about them that, do they not fit? What's going on? And more so comes at it with a more compassionate, not as aggressive approach. And when they've done that, it's kind of shown that they're more responsive. And even, most of the people who have, I'm assuming if you've ever been a manager, one of the first things they teach you is
I think it's cutting it.
Don't criticize, because once you've started on the criticism foot, it will just go down that route, and it starts on a more so negative communication than more so positive.
Agreed. No, that's an awesome book. Justin, have you read that book? How to Win Friends and Influence People?
I have not. I'll put it on my list though.
Yeah, great.
That was Dale Carnegie, right?
Yeah, Dale Carnegie. Yep.
Awesome book. Justin, what about you, man? We're kind of going in a circle here, but what books or books have been influential in your life that you recommend?
Book. I mean, I think everybody talks about this book, right? When you get into real estate investing and you talk about finances, but one for me would have to be Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think most people that we come across have read it, but I always encourage people who haven't read it, to give it a spin, because it's a ton of gems in that book. So obviously, it may be some things that you don't align with, but it gives you a good basis when you start thinking about how to take control of your finances.
I see Alexandria in the background. What is a book for you that has been influential for you?
I would say the Four Agreements. I don't know if you guys have read that one.
That's Ruiz, right? Ruiz?
Super. Even just the first, don't take anything personal. I think that for me is something that I try to constantly remind myself in all aspects of life, like whether it's student debtors, real estate, or just even like personal life. Like, don't take it personal.
100% agree. And it's one of those things. I read that book when I was still in corporate, and that is where you can use it majorly, right? Because people will do things, and you're like, well, like, just come to me. Why are we going? And you know, and so you really gotta take that to heart and just understand, hey, everybody has their own things going on, and people have, you know, issues that we don't even know, right, that are happening in the background. And so you want to make sure that you are continuing to not take it personal and focus on how you can get through your goals and kind of help as many people as you can.
Exactly.
And one of the books that was influential to me, because I was talking to Liban about this a little bit earlier, I think everybody's read this too, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Well, you actually mentioned the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, so you took mine. Aside from the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I actually like Who Not How, right? Which is a book written by Daniel. I'm trying to find it on my shelf.
We talked about this book, though, me and you both. Dan Sullivan.
Dan Sullivan. Amazing book. And it's one of those things where everything he's saying makes a lot of sense, but until you get into situations where you're trying to build and kind of do more, that's when you start to realize, like, hey, you are kind of doing everything. Like, I don't need to be the person to swing the hammer and put every piece, you know, of furniture together at a B&B now, or to, you know, handle every single call, right? We can start to empower others to be that point of contact, to make things happen. And more I'm trying to do that, right? Trying to encourage others to really take point and make things happen, right? And kind of oversee from a distance.
I think that also reminds me of something that's very important, community, right? You know, we get together and we join this call so we can have that sense of community, so we can help each other. We can talk about these books that have influenced us. So not only in empowering people to do those tasks, but also putting people in your community who can tell you the knowledge that you need, because sometimes it's not about the information you can obtain, but who can you obtain it from and how quickly can they help you get to your goals.
100% agree. 100% agree. I always have fun. Anytime we link up, we're having pretty deep conversations about a lot of things, right? But I always have fun seeing somebody who's in their element. I know for you, it's the production, the videography, things of that nature, and just watching and kind of learning, right? I think you can learn from people that are doing things that they're passionate about and that they love, and take nuggets from that. And so I enjoy it when we get together on these calls or in person, kind of just learning from everybody around me. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Liban, what you got, man? I think it just froze.
Go ahead, Lima.
Yeah, I was just going to, a disclaimer PSA. I'm sure y'all noticed I haven't been speaking much. I'm spending a lot of this call frozen, catching every, you know, just real. I had to be transparent with you guys. You know, it's just us here right now. You know, it's just us. I had to have a heart to heart. I can't sit here. All right, I got to live my truth.
Hey, that's fair.
Yeah.
That is fair.
I don't know what's happening. We might be due for another outbreak, another outage, you know, another outage. I don't know. Hopefully not.
Just
That's usually what happens.
Shoestring and bubblegum over there, Lima. Shoestring.
Come on now. McGowan.
I got a couple of things to talk about. I know we don't have a ton of people here, but I did join the DeKalb SCR meeting today. I don't know if you saw that come out. I'm an anchor of the group on Facebook. So
Nice.
we put a link out. They had a meeting about ordinance that's only been written up right now for DeKalb. Technically, according to them, short-term rentals are prohibited in DeKalb because they're not in the land usage rights or whatever they were saying, in the table usage they were saying. But of course, they're not enforcing that rule, but now they're trying to put an ordinance in place to kind of make sure that the people who are operating SCRs properly can continue to operate those SCRs. They've had some issues with party houses, so that's what they're trying to crack down on. But they're taking a lot of feedback from the community in order to figure out what legislation needs to go into this ordinance. Had a ton of people in there giving their feedback, so I think they're going to get it wrapped up sooner than later, but you know, it's going to be one of those things where you just want to make sure you're getting on board and make sure you get all those SCRs licensed so they can continue to operate in DeKalb County, because it's on the way. If you check out Amstra, they may have a recording of that call today, and you know, that may be a quick place to go get that information.
And from what you saw, what were the regulations looking like? Was it looking similar to what was in Fulton County proposed as far as like, hey, you pay X amount, you can get grandfathered in, and then if you have like 3 violations, they can shut you down.
It's a 3-strike rule. They did talk about being grandfathered into the program. And at first they had some issues in there to where they were saying you only could have an STR if you had a homestead exemption. So that would be primary occupancy. But they did remove that, so that won't be an issue. I know that's still an issue in Atlanta. In Fulton County, is it officially completely passed yet? I'm not.
It's still similar to Cal, but they did remove that piece in the proposed, but it's not. Nothing's been passed yet. They haven't started enforcing anything.
Yeah, because I still need to get my primary residence that I'm house hacking. I still need to get that STR application completed. I got everything done. It's just, I don't have a printer. It's like, who has a printer anymore?
I send it my way, actually. This is from my Baxter days, though. All right, don't call me old fashioned.
We had a printer, but like now since we downsized, it's like we're packing everything up. I was like, okay, we don't need a printer. Like we print something maybe once or twice a year, so it's one of the things we got rid of.
Come on now. No, if you send it my way, I can seriously get a printer for you. But yeah, to that point, you getting approved now, especially with the House Act, it's going to be pretty quick. And I actually have one of the guys' phone numbers within the Fulton County. He's one of the people that's been there from the beginning, because it does get a little tricky. If you do the email back and forth, it'll take a bit longer. But if you just call him or text him, he'll be like, oh, okay, I got it. And just, hey, send me this, and he'll knock it out.
Solid. I'll get with you. I'll get all the information. I'll get with you so I can get that taken care of.
And Lebon, it looks like you're back with us, man. Anything top of mind?
For how long? I don't know. Hopefully longer than the last. But no, nothing top of mind as of right now. I mean, we've kind of been seeing, I guess more so a question to you. Why do you think there's such a limited inventory? You know, I've seen like a bunch of reasonings, for instance, like, hey, why would someone with a 2 or 3% trade out? But I mean, that still doesn't account for people who are moving, for instance. Is it we're quite literally not building enough homes? I know we haven't been building enough homes. So kind of what is, in your opinion, the biggest driving factor for that?
And this is just my take, right? But interest rates staying this high for this long has taken a lot of buyers out of the market, right? And if you're a seller that does not have to sell a house right now, this is not the time to sell. We'll just put that out there, right? This is not the time. You want to sell when it's interest rates going down a little bit, more confidence, and people having the funds to be able to go and buy those houses. That's when you want to list it. What we've seen even across, we got like 6 listings live right now, right? And it's been a weird mix of people coming through. Some of them that are really like well done, things that nature, well priced, boom, you're in there. But a lot of them, even though we have it priced where the comps are, we've marketed and things of that nature, it's still tough to get the right buyer to come in, because these buyers have, even with the little inventory, the ones that have to buy something or feel compelled to buy something right now have a few more options. And so you got to get creative with credits and with kind of meeting the needs that they have. But long story short, I think this is a time period where if you are looking to sell a property and you can wait, up to 12, 24 months, I would wait until after the election when the Fed starts to drop that rate and more people flood back in, because it's literally a lot of individuals that are going to be buying houses. The millennials, right, are all of house formation age, a majority of them. But now it's just, can you actually afford the houses that you want?
Okay.
Justin, what's your take on it, man?
Yeah, man, I definitely agree. I actually saw an interesting case study the other day to where the generation after millennials actually have more buying power right now than millennials because of the lost years after the recession. Right? So they're looking at the generation behind us because they'll get funding from their parents, because they're still kind of in that phase to where they can get a gift from their parents, like millennials can as well, but like more common to the generation behind us. And there's a huge influx in that generation that has foregone college. So they have a lot less debt to their name. So now they have a lot more options to be able to afford housing. And there's been the FI community that has encouraged house hacking, but now they're doing it with friends. So it's like people are getting together with their friends and they're buying their first property. So it's like, even with interest rates being a bit higher, you get 3 friends that would have lived together throughout their college years. They're just doing that in their 20s in a destination they desire, and their house hacking that way, but they're all getting a piece of that equity.
That is pretty incredible. And they actually have a Gen Zer on here, Lebon. Can you attest to that?
I can. Yeah, I can. Yeah. I mean, so to put in perspective, yeah, I agree 100% with what you've kind of said, because as kind of the generation, and I've noticed this as well, the millennial generation doesn't really own a lot in terms of just generally. They do not really own much property, etc., because of kind of circumstances and they're growing up. And so to that point, I think because of the fact that pricing is going to stay pretty stagnant for a while, at least, if at least everything stays the same, don't quote me, but if we keep going how we're going, I don't see anything like 2022 happening again. And on the opposite end, I don't see anything like 2008 happening again. So because it's going to be steady, and to your point, because of the fact that many of them forego college, they don't have much debt to income in comparison, and they're also able to take, I think the internet, specifically YouTube, that general education also has allowed them to kind of become smarter buyers. Previously, if someone wanted to buy a house, you couldn't just go on the internet, hey, what to do to get a house, how to get a good, like the internet alone has given so much access to Gen Zers, especially, and them just being more so tech savvy as well kind of helps them, because I don't know anybody that doesn't do a ton of research, like for instance, when they were buying their car, and this is a much lower, I guess you could say, type of purchase, right? But on that same end, I think it'll work more so better. I think our generation is going to have more ownership if they can get their foot in the door, is the thing. It might be harder to get in, but once you're in, it's like now you're rolling in comparison.
I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like their who is literally the internet, right?
Yeah.
It's at their fingertips, and with AI and being able to leverage it and utilize it the proper ways, like your generation have literally grown up the entire time with the internet. Like we were introduced to the internet, much more so than our parents.
100% agree, and it's one of those things where, to Justin's point, like I still remember vividly before, like everybody was getting online and stuff, just going outside. You're outside just running around until it got dark out, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we have social media and all these other things, which, I mean, when you think about it, Instagram even didn't come out until we were in college, like midway through. And so I think it's definitely a benefit for the Gen Zers to be able to listen to podcasts, to look at YouTube and kind of understand what it means to have that home ownership. Justin hit it on the head earlier. What happened in '08 definitely scarred a few millennials, right? Because we were kids, depending on what happened to your family, you may or may not have a positive relationship with real estate, right? It took me a good amount of time to even feel comfortable going into it. And it was only because I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and then started listening to Bigger Pockets constantly. And I was like, oh, okay, you can do this thing. I didn't even get a credit card because I was so nervous about what happened to our family during like '08, '09 until I was a junior in college. It's because like this close family friend was like, hey, man, you got to get a credit card and start building like actual credit because you need this. I was like, hey, I'm going to pay cash for everything. Thankfully, I didn't. I started building that. But long story short, I think if you're like the sooner you can get started, the better, right? I was able to get started at 24, and fast forward and now it's just grown like exponentially. I think that goes for anything. Like when you look at sports, right? When somebody first comes into a professional league, they're not going to be at their best, right? It's not going to be like, hey, they're just going to come in and start dominating. Only few people do that. Usually it takes 5-6 years to acclimate and then their skills start to show through. Same thing in this investing world, right? If you could just stay consistent, keep problem solving, you're only going to get better and better, along the way.
And then one thing I'd like to add too, that is a factor that, to your point, our generation benefits from, because when you mentioned all the technology stuff is work from home. I mean, if you don't have to live in the city, right? If you don't have to live in the city, your cost to buy your first house, quote unquote, just drastically dropped, right? And so now specifically, we're not really limited to where we have to live in terms of jobs. But that flexibility allows for a lot.
That leads me to my next point, Liban, the work from home aspect, right? That has increased the amount of co-living. I don't know if you guys have heard about the phenomenon of co-living, right? To where friends and family want to live close to each other or essentially with each other. So we all love multifamily real estate because of house hacking, right? So now we have this new marketing strategy. So where if we have these multifamily properties, or say you have a property that has a duplex, and you can put another duplex or either an ADU or something on that, and you can market it as like, hey, this is a property ready for multiple families to live on. So you can get 3 families living on that one property. So they're essentially all living together, but living separately. You can really start to market that to a very niche audience, but you can start fetching those high dollars amounts because they can buy that property together. the same way we were talking about with your generation, right? So sometimes as an investor, it's hard to find another investor that can pay that $900,000 for a triplex, or someone who's trying to get into it paying for a triplex, or marketing to just a single family. But when you can market it to 3 single families, like, hey, you 3 people can buy this together, it'll be cheaper than buying one single family. Right? You get way more home than what you would have got if you can buy this property together.
Yeah, that's a good point.
100% agree. 100% agree. And it's one of those things where every market has an opportunity, right? And in this market, I see it for the buyers. Like even the type of deal that we're negotiating for this duplex that we're getting ready to close on to move into over in Peoplestown. The credits that we're getting toward closing are crazy. And then all the stuff that we're getting ready to send as a request for repairs is stuff that a year ago, 2 years ago, may not have flown, right? But right now, there's not as many buyers that are out there to take something like this off their hands. And so people are willing to work with you, and you can really get an incredible deal. And you just got to keep your eye on the horizon for being able to refinance that and make a good deal into a great deal down the road. But a lot of people have that, hey, I need instant gratification. I know the people that join this call are more long-term thinkers, which is awesome. In the world, a lot of people are like, hey, if I put X in, can I have this tomorrow? And it doesn't work like that. If you're willing to think about 5 years, 10 years, even 3 years, right? You can build something pretty incredible.
I mean, you spoke about it earlier, man, when you talked about sports. It's all about positioning, right? The Oklahoma City Thunder, they were bad for a long time, but they acquired all these assets in their draft picks. And now they've been able to get to the playoffs, and they're going to continue to grow because they have the youngest, best talent in the league. So that's the same thing you're saying now. If you could position yourself to where you can weather this storm for this short amount of time, you'll come out on the other end unscathed, and everybody be like, man, I wish I would have got in when he got it.
On a complete side note, and this has nothing to do with investing, as somebody that's been able to spend time up close with a bunch of different athletes, we got the Celtics or the Mavs heading into this final.
I think the difference is going to be Porzingis. Is he going to come back and he's going to be able to play? Because the rookie, Derek Lively for the Dallas Mavericks, he's been the difference in all these series that Dallas has played in. So I think if Porzingis doesn't come back, I think the Mavericks are going to upset Boston and win the NBA championship.
Lee Ballos, you going with?
Yeah, I agree completely. Specifically, I mean, another reason too is the Mavericks do a lot of pick and rolls, and they cannot have Al Horford as the switcher. That'd be bad. That'd be bad. And that alone is why Porzingis is vitally important. That lateral, because it's going to be a problem. So I have the Celtics winning personally. I don't see them really losing. But I think I had this conversation with Niyi. If they steal a game at home, there's hope. That game 1 or 2, if they get game 1 or 2, you might see me next week. I might have the Mavs jersey on, you know.
No, you've chosen your colors, man. Celtic Greer, man. I'm rocking with the Mavs just because, I think Kyrie's going to come out there with a vengeance, man. I just saw the new shoes that he's going to be wearing, too. Looks like he's just going to take off from the free throw line, man, and just dunk over somebody for real. So, taking the Mavs.
And it's going to be a hell of a matchup, man. Luka and Kyrie versus Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum is like, the duo of Luka and Kyrie has been dominant in the playoffs, something that we didn't see in the regular season. The Celtics have been one of the best teams all year long. But as we have seen before, if you force Jaylen Brown to go left, teams can get mistakes.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
This is true.
$300 million without a left is crazy. I got to see what they pay my guy Jason. They got to pay my guy. All right, they got to pay him a lot.
Y'all know what Luka's about to get? Luka's about to get like 50 something a year. 50.
None of these guys are going to sign long-term deals because it's got to be an increased salary cap after the new TV deal.
Yeah.
So after the end of next year, it only goes up 10% a year, but the contracts are still going to like 10% where you're talking a lot.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. And then Victor, he's like, his second contract after his rookie deal is going to be $98 million a year. He's going to get $500 million over 5 years. It's crazy.
If he keeps balling like he is right now, it's well deserved because he's going to single-handedly keep Pop. Single-handedly keep Pop alive in that game. Shifting gears back, one of the things that I'm working through right now, still, it's taken forever, man. So I gotta actually explore other options here, which I haven't had to do for close to a decade. But my taxes, still working through getting the final pieces turned in because it's gotten complicated. But one of the benefits over the last couple of years have been tapping into that cost segregation and being able to save a lot on that piece. So Justin, I know maybe not this year, but heading into next year, is this something that you're considering for the Decatur House?
100%. I actually have a meeting with the new CPA on Tuesday. I've been prospecting, trying to find somebody else. I have a couple local people from my hometown. The Hall group, they do a lot of stuff on Bigger Pockets, so I hit them up. So I'm going to see if I can get in with their group, see if we can have the right fit, because I'm definitely looking to make sure that I'm building a relationship with someone who can help me long term, right? I probably could get away with doing it on my own in the next year, but I'd rather start the relationship now so we can carry it on as we move forward. That way we can actually plan for all the things that are coming down the line. Like, I have a pretty good idea of how we want to invest as we move forward. So like being able to share that information with my CPA, that way we can start planning around the taxes and like, all right, what can we do in order to reduce our tax liability the best way we can?
I actually met with the Hall group a couple of weeks ago. One thing, they're awesome, right? And they're on Bigger Pockets, things of that nature. But there comes an expense with that. So they are a bit expensive. Are you open to driving to Duluth to talk to someone?
Yeah. I'm definitely, I had one person and unfortunately I had to end that commitment, but I'm looking for somebody else. At least, I did a prospective thing and some people reached out for me from Atlanta, but yeah, I'm definitely willing to drive to Duluth.
Okay, I just met with somebody in Lehman that you would appreciate this. Nas has been looking for one too. He found somebody. This dude's pretty solid. And so I met with him last Tuesday in person. It's a long drive out there, but I met with him last Tuesday in person. And that's definitely an option after we get through this tax piece. We're just trying to work out the pricing and what it would look like, but it seemed like it was going to be a little bit less. And this guy can do similar things. Plus, he can do cost segregations for a lot cheaper. Typically, a cost seg's going to cost you like, for a single family house, maybe like $3,000, $4,000, right? His costs are coming in a lot less. Yes, it costs that much to bond, but you're saving $75K on taxes. So imagine like,
the math is there.
The math starts to math, right? When you're looking at, Uncle Sam and I, right?
Like Paul said, a lot of people don't realize, regardless of whether or not you do it or not, you're gonna still have the recapture, right? So
yes.
If you don't do the cost seg, you're still going to have the recapture. So it's actually in your benefit to always make sure you do.
Yeah. And with the cost seg, it's one where like my early years, I don't even know if it was around back then. I think it shifted at some point. But my early years,
it was always there if you're doing long-term rentals, but like now we have the advantage of doing it if you have the SCR because you don't have to be a full-time real estate investor.
True. And I'm thinking more like residential versus commercial, because it wasn't as big in residential back in like 2016, 2017, at least not that I'm aware of. And maybe I was just blinders on trying to figure it out. But the taxes was like the last thing that kind of came on. And in the past couple of years, now I'm like hyper focused on like, okay.
Well, you probably kick it all up front because you weren't a real estate professional. Like if you were working full-time as a real estate professional, it wouldn't have applied to you anyway. Even if long-term rentals, you would have to be real estate professional in order to take the cost segregation, right?
Unless you were doing an STR, right? But yes, for the long-term rentals, I had a bunch of depreciation built up over years. It just kept rolling. And then when I moved into real estate full-time, that's when my CPA was like, hey, okay, we can take this. And he just moved it over and wiped some stuff out.
Yeah, like you said, unless you were doing the SCRs in 2016, then you would have, yeah.
True. Okay.
Speaking of that, I know you use QuickBooks. I've been looking at some other softwares as far as bookkeeping and things of that nature. Have you ever heard of Rectastic?
No. You said Rectastic?
Okay. Rectastic. So
Rectastic.
I dropped it in the chat earlier, but I don't know if it shows up before the call comes in. I just dropped it in again. But basically, sent an ad on YouTube, bro. And then I went down this rabbit hole. They have this program and they showed a little demo. It's very similar to Hospitable. Seems like a group that's coming up, boots off the ground. But I love these type of new softwares because you can speak one-to-one with the people who are making the software, right? So even if the software isn't amazing to start, like if I can talk one-to-one with someone and they can set it up properly, I think it'll be a great advantage because it's coming in way cheaper than QuickBooks and is built tailored toward rental property. So you can categorize all your rental properties separately. You can have a photo of it. You can link all the bank accounts so all the transactions are working the same. So I'm definitely looking into it. I'll follow up with you once I kind of have the demo to see how it goes, but it's looking like a viable option because it's very user friendly, right? And I always try to look at these things. So eventually I may be having to pass off this task to someone else. So the easier it can be, the better it's going to be for me long term.
Honestly, I love it. You already saved a heck of a lot when it comes to the price labs piece. That was amazing. This one would be even heavier of a lift, to be honest. Price labs, like, okay, it's on me to kind of move everything over. QuickBooks, we've got everything tied in there. So it would have to be compelling, right? So because QuickBooks Online, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like, because we're doing the full package with the direct deposit and all that stuff, I think it's like $100 a month, right?
The one that's like $40. But it's just like, for me, it's very cumbersome. Like, you probably have a much better handle on it because you've been using it longer. But it's like, it's just so many things that I'm yearning to know how to do in it that I can't get any help with. I try to reach out to their support and they're not any help. The forms are very convoluted. So I'm just looking for something that just kind of streamline it for me.
Agreed. Yeah. And full transparency, I don't look at QuickBooks as much anymore. Like, even for invoicing for different STR owners, things of that nature, I send an email to a VA who then works QuickBooks to invoice. I figured out one time, I'm like, all right, let me record a video of me doing this and then give it to somebody and kind of move it on.
Implement who, not how right there.
Who, not how, man. Who, not how. Leadbon, are you with us? I don't think he is. Here he goes.
All right, guys. I don't know. I think it's finally time we have a discussion with our internet providers.
Yeah. I think it's been time for a couple of weeks, but it's all good, Leadbon. One day, man. One day.
We're gonna level up. Like how you're talking about with the cost segregation. I'm gonna do the same thing with my internet. We're gonna get it up slowly.
Hey, Niyi, how do you feel about new construction? I know there's an issue with inventory, and I just found out, I never knew this, I'm sure you guys know this, but I didn't realize when you're doing new construction for like anything that you only pay the interest on the loan during the building phase. So I was like, man, how does anybody build a house from the ground up? But I was thinking about, like, I hear a lot about leveraging the land that you already own, because that's one thing that you don't have to take over again. So like, I have a good bit of land at my duplex, right? I was like, would it ever be worth it to just build another duplex behind the duplex, or get a couple ADUs put up or something along that line? And I was like, man, but how am I gonna have to pay $200,000 like cash out of pocket? Like, how am I gonna get this done? And then I realized that a new construction loan, you only would pay the interest until the project was complete, and it'd be much cheaper, and it'd be like, the top of the line because it'd be new units.
It would. The only thing with new construction, and we're doing this actively right in Kentucky, right? And we're doing the townhomes as well as the storage. It's those type of loans where you're only paying, it's almost like a HELOC. You're only paying what you use, right? And so as you start to get toward the end, you're paying more, and then it matures into the actual loan itself. So it converts over to it. But the one thing with new construction is it always takes longer than you think, right? Like my neighbor next door, I think you saw the whole progression, right? They were building their house. They bought the land back in, I want to say December of 2021. And they believed they were going to have it done by like that August or September. And they ended up not finishing until like last year, like middle of last year. And so it took about 18 months as opposed to, hey, this is going to be 8 or 9 months. So as long as you're willing to have like the holding cost and understand it's going to take a little bit longer, new construction can be amazing. And to your point, there's a lot less things you got to worry about because everything's brand new. There's still going to be some kinks to work out, but everything's brand new. But what you mentioned a second, I love that. If you already have land and you have the zoning, that's the key to be able to build another duplex. You got to have the zoning for it. That is amazing. I'm actually planning to do that over at that property. I don't know if you saw this one, the one that you have. The one that we have off of, in East Atlanta, 3-bed, 2-bath with a big backyard. Do you remember that house?
Yeah.
Yes. So, the ordinance here, and actually had an ADU guy go out there to build an ADU for our neighbor. The ordinance here is that you have to have 15 feet of clearance to the back and 15 feet on each side, and Maynard's got plenty of that. And so, long story short, he can build the largest ADU, 750 square feet, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, make it modern looking, kind of square-like, for $150,000, right? And that's top to bottom, getting all the permits, pulling everything over to it.
Would be real property tied to land or 80 on wheels?
No, this would be 80. It'd be real property tied to the land. ADU, real property tied to the land. I've seen some of the ones on wheels. I'm like, I want to have it tied to the land because then you take it from a 3-2 in East Atlanta Village to a 5-3, and the comps for a 5-3 go way up. So it's going to cost 115, but you're going to get that back when I look at what 5-3s are selling for immediately. So, and then when you rent that out on Airbnb, right, that's going to cover itself to where it's net neutral.
Yeah, and I found that like big homes do well, but like even if you could have that same space with 2 separate units with the same size of a big home, you could do really well because now you're splitting it up, and it's almost like house hacking again. It's like you've hacked the land to get double the amount of space on that one land. Like you got a really cheap duplex, like you said.
And I don't know about Liban, but like personally, that's where I've been finding the deals now is especially those singles with in-law suites. Like that's where it is. Duplex, triplex, quadplex. It's almost too easy for people to find now, unless you're the first one in and can like snatch it up, or you're buying in the winter, which you guys do, which is awesome. There's less buyers out there. And so like the art house, right? The art house, the reason that thing works is because the in-law suite in the back, like we're cash flowing like crazy over there because the front is taking care of the mortgage and the back is what the cash flow is. Like we got somebody in the back paying $2,200 for the next 30 days, right? And that's just pure cash flow because the front is carrying everything else. And so I like those type of opportunities. And then even the house that we're getting ready to buy, this house hack, it's a duplex, but the back unit has 5 beds, 4.5 baths, which is what I'm in right now. And that bottom bedroom is like separate entrance. So all we got to do is put, money into a kitchenette, separate that out, and now you got a triplex. So I'm like, okay, this can work.
Yeah, and definitely like what you were saying about building that ADU, I'm trying to position and just figure out what I can do because we want to buy again in November. We're just trying to buy every November. Like that's our plan. But also I want to take advantage of this additional land that we have here. If not this year, then the next year. Because it's not going anywhere, but like I do want to make this, just try to get every penny out of this property that I can.
Agreed. And the one thing with the ADU, and this is the last thing I'll mention on that piece, is financing's tough on that. Typically you can't get bank financing. You typically have to take a HELOC or come in with cash. And so for the Maynard property, it's gone up so much in value. I bought it for $460. Right now it's appraised for $550. And so I take a HELOC out on that, use that HELOC to buy or build the ADU, and then have that pay itself back. That's how I would plan to do it. With capital that I actually have, I want to focus on getting other houses, more plots of land, and kind of go from there. And so I personally look for the equity to grow in your house and then use that to expand it and have it pay itself back when it makes sense.
Yeah, I was going to look to try to take the equity from the first home that we had and then utilize to pull it here because I don't have the space at the Decatur property. So I would take the HELOC from that property, deploy it at this property, and then buy more property, like you said, with the capital that we're creating.
I like it, man. I like it. Liban,
Question.
while your internet's working, we're going to leave you with, go ahead.
I had a quick question about that whole thing is before my internet cuts out, hopefully. The whole kind of adding to the ADU piece, at what point are you then, because you mentioned you taking out the HELOC to build the ADU, are you then getting a kind of refinance to then pay back the ADU? Or are you using the newfound income that you're generating from the ADU to pay back the HELOC?
Well, I would imagine you can't refinance because you didn't have traditional financing on the ADU, so you just be using the ADU to pay back the HELOC. That's how I've always understood it. Because if you could get the traditional financing on the ADU, I would imagine you would just do the traditional financing to begin with.
So you can't go to the bank and go, hey, I built an ADU on my property. It now is a 5.3 instead of a 3.1
Maybe.
or 3.2,
I'm not sure.
You can. I just don't know. It would have to go up significantly in value, right? So significantly. I think it's a wash. Like when I run the numbers over on the Maynard property, I'm okay. If I add this, it'd probably be worth roughly about 700, right? But you've just paid another 115, right? And so I think it'll be a wash at the end of the day for that ADU piece. And when you go to refinance with the bank, you're gonna have to pay some fees for that. And so I wouldn't do that immediately unless it was like a significant increase. I would just wait it out and then refinance down the road and kind of pull it out then. But to Justin's point, the goal is to have the ADU just pay back the HELOC. It should be able to cover that and some and itself. Because think about it, man, these 2-1, it's not unreasonable to think you can pull in $2,000 a month on a 2-1, right? really more than that, but conservatively 2,000 a month. And so if you put 115K into a HELOC, typically you pay 1% back each month. And so that'd be, $1,000, right? Or $1,100. And so if we're bringing in 2,000, it's $1,100. Utilities aren't going to go up that much. You should be knocking that HELOC out relatively.
Okay.
Covering the spread, and then once you pay it back, man, you're free and clear.
That makes sense.
Because you said $1,000 a month. That's 15 months. So for 15 months, now you're just cash flowing whatever you're cash flowing on that 80.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you'll be done paid off the mortgage.
Yeah, that's true. And if you are taking it out now, it's not like your HELOC is going to go up.
While we're on the subject of ADUs, I want to show you guys something that I'm actually pitching to an investor.
I love
They're looking for something unique, and it's all around ADUs. So I'm going to be talking to them tomorrow about this, but I'm going to share it with you guys. I think these guys went overboard with it. If I can pull this up.
I love ADUs just because of the affordability crisis we have in the country, right? Like, even with people traveling, like, people want to be able to, like, people are trying to cram people into smaller spaces. It's like, I've noticed that our here close to downtown Atlanta, it's probably going to end up doing better than my 5-bedroom, which is crazy.
Because it's smaller space. People don't need to have a whole crew together to come and make sure they can go and stay there. It's like, hey, I could just book this Airbnb quickly by myself.
And we're getting just longer days, longer stays, man. So the occupancy rate is just going.
This is an ADU or a property that they may have priced themselves out of, or ADU themselves out of being able to actually sell the property. But this property sits on 2.4 acres. It has a main house that's a 3-2, but they've literally built 8 ADUs on the acreage, right? And so when you look at conventional financing, it's not even listed for a crazy amount. The regular house is okay, but the ADUs are dope. Like, these ADUs are
Awesome.
actually pretty fire.
Blue was nice.
Like, this is gonna cash flow, but no bank wants to finance it because it's hard to. And like, this one looked kind of like a cool like treehouse ADU. Like, it's dope, but you almost have to come with commercial now to even be able to buy something like this, or come with cash, which eliminates a lot of the buyer pool. So long story short, cautionary tale, when you're doing the ADUs, I wouldn't go too crazy with it. I've seen some people want to say, hey, I'm going to put 3, 4, unless you plan to hang on to that property and then sell or finance it to somebody. It may be a tight proposition.
This would be one of those ones where they should definitely try to market to some people that are looking to do that co-living type deal, right? Like we were talking about earlier. Like, so if they could, there's resources out there to where you can find those people that are trying to all live together or live in like a 10-minute radius. I think this would be perfect to market to those type of people.
Agreed. And it's actually one that it's just, there's a couple, this location, you got to make sure that you're going to be cleared to do the STR piece on this one, because this is one where like these small units aren't going to work as long-term rentals because they don't have a lot of like, the utilities and other things of that nature. And it's kind of a weird layout. Like, you don't want to live in a treehouse as your main house. It's cool to go to for like a weekend getaway, but I don't see Alexandria be happy in a treehouse. Like, hey, this is our crib right here. You know what I mean? And my wife would not be either. With this, it's one that's an interesting deal. I think it could be dope. It's just, you got to make sure your permitting is in place, that it's not going to go away to want to move forward on this.
Is that the black couple that got really famous in Atlanta that was like building the tree houses with like Airstream? Is that the
I
same?
don't know. Was it all in one property that they did that?
Yeah, he did it at the first house that he bought. He did it at the first house he bought. Like, when he got into real estate, he built a bunch of ADUs. I don't think it's that property that you just showed, but I'm wondering if it's the same couple.
I wish I'd be.
I mean, because they
might be
really popular. They had like a treehouse.
Yeah, I mean, one of these was a treehouse, so it may be. It's interesting. It looks awesome. It's only $800K, right? I'm like, hey, this is great, but you can't get traditional financing. You probably got to come with cash or conventional. I just have an investor that I'm talking to that worked with the company that I was at before that was asking for something similar to this so they could save on taxes. Actually, they're like, listen, I got hit over the head with taxes last year, trying to save. Can you help? I said, sure. So I'm looking at a couple opportunities.
The Maxims. That's who
Maxims.
Thinking about. I'll drop a link in the chat. This guy, he went crazy. He builds everything himself, so cost is super low. But very interesting people. Definitely some people that we probably should try to connect with in Atlanta anywhere.
Done and done. I'm gonna check it out and see if this is actually their property. We are gonna wrap for tonight. Justin, thank you for joining. Alexandria, good to see you. Levon, we got to fix the internet.
I was part-time today. I was part-time. Look, I appreciate it.
Captain.
Figure out how we can get this thing set up in person. That way we don't have to worry about his internet. We just need to really get this thing rolling, and we'll just get it out all together, just hanging out, talking real estate, and watching the dollars roll in.
At the new crib, we honestly may just complete a setup. I think that'd be kind of cool because now it's not you. We can just start it from the ground and say like, hey, let's put some the phone things that help protect from the sound, all that stuff. We can just set it up from the beginning and make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Be safe. I will catch you a little bit later.
Bye, y'all.